Welcome back, friends. Um, I have a video today called Fire and Fury, and I am feeling a lot of sadness as I bring this video to you about what is happening in our country right now. So what I want to do is I want to show you the charts and keep this brief because I don't want to go into the sensationalization of what has happened. I'm sure you've seen the videos and you know, um, you know what kicked this off, and you've seen the protests and the riots, and either with your own eyes, depending on where you are, or on the news. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at the charts and keep this very simple because, again, I really don't want to get into sensationalizing this. This isn't for me this isn't for anyone to benefit from. It's for us to observe and decide how we will choose to respond to these events. But this is the revolution that I've been talking about. We're starting to see glimpses of it now. And I'm going to not only talk about the charts, but also go back to the predictions that I've been making. And astrologers have been making predictions for years about what was coming in 2020, about the revolution that was coming, about the restructuring and transformation of power and authority and institutions in the United States. Now, this is really worldwide, but for some reason, we're experiencing it more intensely in the United States, and it really has to do with the eclipses. Eclipses are karmic, and the karma is coming around again. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the charts right now. And by the way, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, click like on this video, share with friends and family on social media, and feel free to leave your comments. And also just want to let you know that I'm also doing a financial freedom channel to share with you everything I know as an economics graduate of the University of Denver, where I also went on for a master's degree in economics, and my experience of over 10 years as a successful self-employed entrepreneur. So that's where I'm going to create content. So I'm just building that channel now. I hope you'll go over there and subscribe. Also, if you're interested in joining my Patreon, I have 2 free gifts: a birth chart for anyone who signs up at the $5 tier plus exclusive content, and birth chart plus a free ebook and exclusive content for those who sign up at the $10 tier. Okay, that's me earning my living. So now let's get on to the charts. So I had done some charts about the American Civil War. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go look for those, and I will make an effort to get them as links above in this video and links below in the description box or pinned to the top of the comments so that you have easy access to them. Because I did a series of somewhere like 2 or 3 videos, I don't remember exactly, where I laid this out for you. So I'll do this again, but then you can also go back and look at those charts. So the reason why, I mean, I knew that the problem with the inauguration, I knew there was going to be a problem with the inauguration because of the charts. It's so obvious. But then as I was doing research, because that's what astrologers do, astrology is a science of pattern recognition. So you have to look for the patterns. You have to do a ton of research as an astrologer. And I was doing research and I stumbled upon this chart, which happens to be the day that, which is considered the kickoff, the beginning of the American Civil War. And that happened on April 12th, 1861, when the South, which we now think of as the Confederates, attacked Fort Sumter in Charleston, South Carolina, or near there. It wasn't exactly Charleston, it was near Charleston, South Carolina. And they attacked Fort Sumter, and from my understanding of the history, no one actually died. They were successful in taking over Fort Sumter, and the reason why this was considered the beginning of the American Civil War was because it put into the minds of the people in the South that they could actually be successful, that they could secede from the Union, that they could fight a civil war, and that they could actually win. And so it's interesting to me when I look at this chart for April 12th, 1861, and one of the first things that jumps out at me is the fact that Mercury was conjunct Neptune, because Neptune is what takes us into a delusion. And so their minds, their thinking, their communications were, which is all Mercury, were blurred by the conjunction with Neptune. And at the time, Neptune was also opposite the natal Neptune of our nation's birth chart. And that's happening now. Neptune is opposite Neptune, but I will show you the modern day chart and what's happening. So what we see here at this time was Mars conjunct Uranus. And at this time it was in Gemini, and it was conjunct the nation's Uranus. Uranus are things that are shocking and surprising and bring revolution. Now, Civil War, in a sense, you could think of it as revolutionary, but not because it was not because the Confederates were trying to bring something new. They were trying to maintain their old system, and that's why we've got this karma coming around again, because it's all based in racism. It's all based in discrimination. It's all based in inequality of power and wealth. And that's the karma of our nation, sadly. And the karma is coming around again. And we're seeing it so clearly now. And so the attack came from the Confederates and kicked it off. But that ultimately led to the Emancipation Proclamation. And while it didn't solve all the problems, it was a step in the right direction. And unfortunately, we have not solved all the problems. And therefore, our karma is coming around again to be dealt with again. But in terms of astrology, you definitely want to look at the conjunction of Uranus and Mars, because that's what we will see at the time of the alignments on Inauguration Day. We see a conjunction of Uranus and Mars squaring Saturn. So that's exactly what was happening at the time when the American Civil War was kicked off. We had a Uranus-Mars conjunction squaring Saturn. Now, I know a lot of people might be frightened because they might think, are you telling me that we're going to have another American Civil War? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that our karma is coming around again. It's the same karma that we had to deal with at the time of the American Civil War, that this country had to deal with, okay? This isn't about the North versus the South. This is about our entire nation. We have a national karma. That means anyone who is born in the United States, who is an American citizen, or who lives in the United States, takes on this karma. And it's something that we all have to deal with, and it's coming around again. And we're already seeing it. And so The other thing to see on this chart is that the moon is also moving toward that conjunction of Mars and Uranus. And really, I only went to about midnight on April 12th, but the moon moves very quickly. So by the morning of April 13th, we would see the moon also into conjunction. It would really only take probably a few hours. So by morning, it would definitely be into conjunction with Mars and Uranus, which is important because that's what we see on Inauguration Day. We see not only a conjunction of Uranus and Mars, but also the moon right there as well. So I think a few more things I want to point out about this, or maybe just one more thing I'll point out about this, is that Venus is in opposition to Saturn as well. And a Venus-Saturn opposition is not considered favorable because it is a dissatisfaction with the way things are. And it gives you this feeling like there's something, like there's a thorn under your skin and you're just, you just can't stand it. You just have to do something about it. So when you combine that feeling of deep dissatisfaction, and then you combine the Mercury conjunction to Neptune opposite the natal Neptune, which blurs the thinking, it doesn't have to. It just depends on the person. And most people, unfortunately, fall into that shadow of Neptune, and they become delusionary in their thinking. And they're not seeing things clearly. And then you mix that with the TNT of the Mars conjunction to Uranus, right over the natal Uranus of the nation, squaring, transiting Saturn. This is explosive. And it kicked off the American Civil War. And then, like I said, within a few hours by morning, the moon moved in there too and added the emotionality and subconscious of the people who got triggered to, to say, okay, we're going to do this. We succeeded in our first attack on Fort Sumter. We're going to do this. And everybody rallied, and and that's what kicked off the American Civil War. Okay, so let's look at what is happening today, and you will see the similarities, not only what is happening today, but then I'll take you forward to the Inauguration Day chart. So I'm going to pull this up, and I am going to set it for today. But the thing about it is that you'll see that there were things happening that have been happening for the past few days astrologically that really set this in motion. And of course, the karma is there. The karma was just waiting to be activated. And so when the alignments come around, then that's what happens. Okay, so so first of all, I want to start over here because, as I mentioned, astrologers have been talking about this for years because the whole thing got kicked off with the new moon eclipse in Capricorn on December 25th, 26th. It happened around midnight. And it just so happens that coincided with the timing of the first person who was ill coming into the United States in Seattle. And so a lot of us didn't even know what was going on below the surface, behind the scenes at that time. But it was the new moon eclipse that set this whole thing off, because while it may seem like the recent events and protests and riots are not connected to the illness, believe me, it's all connected astrologically. On that level, it's all connected. That's the level of energy. That's the level of karma. It's all connected. And so, because this was meant to happen, you know, for us to work through our karma. It's like when you have a boil, you have this infection under the skin, and it may not flare up right away, but because that infection is there, it will eventually flare up. And that's the karma. And so something has to come along to start triggering it. And it's all connected. Just take my word for it. If you think about it too analytically, you miss the divinity, and you miss the divine intelligence, the divine wisdom, the divine justice. And, you know, you have to understand that people who are suffering and dying right now, some people may not believe this, but I am a firm believer that we sign up for everything that we go through in our lives. And they chose to sacrifice their lives in order to kick this thing off, to bring us to the brink where we have to deal with our karma as a nation. So the planets here, Saturn is moving back into Capricorn. We're going to see more happen when it gets back into Capricorn. And it won't make another conjunction, another exact conjunction to Pluto again, as it did on January 12th, 2020, at the time of the full moon eclipse in Capricorn and Cancer. But it's close. The conjunction energy is still there. And this is all about transforming the power and authority structures in this country. This is all about our karma coming around again, okay? And so the square of Saturn and Uranus at the nodes of the United States, again, the nodes are karmic, is what is triggering the karma. And Mars moving into 15 degrees of Pisces, where it will form a square to the upcoming eclipse on June 5th, is also part of this. So just understanding that we're now watching the events of unfolding karma related to the June 5th full moon eclipse is already happening now. We're watching it right now, okay? And it's also interesting to note that, again, I set this for today, May 30th, and as I'm making this video, and you can see Black Moon Lilith in conjunction with Uranus, and understand that in the past few days, she actually made an exact conjunction to Uranus. And again, Uranus is the planet of revolution, shock, surprises, lightning bolts. It just comes like boom, out of nowhere. You didn't expect it. Well, of course, astrologers did expect it, and it's like a powder keg that's just ready to blow, and something comes along and lights the fuse. And so astrologically, that was Black Moon Lilith making its conjunction to Uranus. And so I am being very careful, because I have to be careful with my language, because certain words can cause demonetization on YouTube. Plus, like I said, I'm not here to sensationalize things. I'm just here to show you the astrology. And so that's super important, because I've been pointing to Uranus for months now, talking about what Uranus is going to bring. I didn't realize, I knew that Black Moon Lilith was going to make things difficult, but I didn't know exactly how that would unfold. And I had some inkling that it would probably light the fuse of the powder keg, but I wasn't 100% sure how that would look. But now we know. So again, this is part of the unfolding eclipse. We're only a week away from the eclipse itself. And you can see that at the same time, the sun was conjunct the nation's natal Uranus, where I showed you before at the American Civil War, it was the conjunction of Mars and Uranus that was right on top of the natal Uranus right here in the 7th house of the public. And now this time it's the sun. Understand, this is the chart for May 30th. So to understand what's been happening for the past few days, you just have to move these backward a couple of degrees. So the sun would have been exactly conjunct Uranus, and Lilith would have been exactly conjunct the transiting Uranus, okay? So it's going to get worse before it gets better, both for the nation and for the nation's primary leader, which I'll do another chart on to show you that. You can also see here the moon right over Neptune, opposite Neptune, forming a square to Mars, and in the 7th house of the public. Mars is a fire, Mars is a warrior, Mars is the anger. We're not done with this, not by a long shot, okay? Because the moon is your emotions and your subconscious. It's the public. And it's up here in the 10th house where 10th house is the most public realm in the entire chart. That's where you see things happening in the public sphere. And the moon represents the public, not just the physical people, but their emotions and their subconscious, okay? And it's right on top of the Neptune up here, which is the nation's values. It's what we think of as our ideals, and people are angry for good reason. And the alignments are in the same place. You know, if you need to, just take your little cursor and go back and click on an earlier point in this video, and then pause the video, and you can look at that chart for as long as you want. You can take a screenshot of it, and you can see what was happening right here over the nation's Uranus, which was the Uranus-Mars conjunction, which we're going to see again on Inauguration Day, and I am going to show you that chart. And you'll see the Neptune was opposite Neptune at that time. So now we've got the moon, which is the emotions and subconscious of the public, activating that in the public sphere. That means it's all out in the public. It's not hidden, okay? It's not hidden anymore. We are seeing it. It has erupted. This is the karmic infection of our country, and it has erupted into the public sphere, okay? So we're seeing it happening now. This is the karma unfolding. All right, so now I am going, and I think it's also important to see how it's forming that T-square to the Mars in our 7th house of the people. Mars, the warrior, the fighter, the anger, the fire, literally the fire and the fury of the people is getting activated because we are not living up to our ideals as the United States of America. We were all taught in school what the ideals of this country, and we are not living up to them, and we need to start doing that. And of course, the Pluto and the Jupiter here are opposite Mercury, and so I'm not sure if this is going to have an effect on the economy and the stock market, because these are the money houses, the economy and the stock market. But this can also, the 8th house is also deep psychological transformation. So I think it's also about the transformation that we're undergoing right now. Okay, so now I'm going to bring up the, I could bring up the June eclipse really quick, and then I'll bring up the Inauguration Day chart. That way you get them all in the same video. Plus, like I said, I'll work on getting links up to the videos I made months ago about the American Civil War and the karma of the Confederates. It's like they've reincarnated. So, so we're going around the spiral of consciousness. Again, we're coming around to the same issues that we were dealing with at the time of the American Civil War. All right, so this is it, June 5th. So again, we're already, the karma that's activated by the June 5th full moon eclipse is already starting right now, okay? Right now as I'm making this video. Take us back a few days to what kicked this whole thing off. And you will understand that the karma is now unfolding. The karma of this eclipse is now unfolding. And what we see now down here is Mars. Now, I did say that I do believe that this is the eclipse, I mean, the illness. But also, I believe now that it's the fire and the fury of the people who are so angry, and they are justifiably angry. And unfortunately, I'm not sure saner heads are going to prevail. And so I want to speak to that really quickly, because a lot of people may be thinking, well, what can I do? And the first thing you need to do is meditate, because unless you are grounded and centered and you have focused on your own healing first, you will simply add more trauma to the situation. You've got to heal yourself first. It's just like when you're on an airplane and they say, put your own oxygen mask on first before you assist others. You've got to make sure you've dealt with your own healing and your own trauma first, because if you haven't, then you are putting more trauma into the situation instead of putting healing into the situation. And it's not that I don't want anyone to think that I'm suggesting that we just sit back and do nothing. That's not what I'm saying. Healing yourself is the most powerful work you can do. And a lot of people don't believe that, because they just want to go out there and take action, and they want to see something happen, and they want to throw their anger, their own fire and fury into the mix and think that that's going to solve the problem. But believe me, if you're coming from trauma yourself, if you're coming from anger and hatred yourself, all you're doing is putting more fire and fury into the mix, and it becomes more and more explosive. If you want to see this situation healed, if you want to see the karma of the United States healed, you have to heal your own trauma and your own karma first. Because when you can come from a place of love and empathy and compassion, that's when you can bring healing. So, it's like Eckhart Tolle always says. People say, I want peace. I want peace. No, they don't. They want to fight. They want to battle. They want to see the raging fire and fury. They want to see the buildings burning down. They don't want to see peace. They don't want to see healing. And I'm not in any way criticizing people who went out there and expressed their anger. I'm not in any way criticizing them, because that's what needed to happen karmically. But to add more to that will not bring healing. Okay, so just understand that. If you want to do something, you need to heal yourself first, so that you can bring healing and love and compassion and empathy out into the world, instead of bringing more anger and rage and fire and fury into the world, because that will only add to the violence and death. So, unfortunately, with Mars in Pisces, making a T-square to this eclipse right over the ascendant, that's the moon there. I told you the moon is the emotions and subconscious of the public. It's right on the ascendant of the United States, and it is going to be explosive. And Neptune is squaring Mars in the 7th house of the public. And Venus conjunct the Sun retrograde, and with Neptune opposite natal Neptune, what's going to happen is a lot of people are going to get hurt. Unless we're lucky. Because sometimes karma, the way it unfolds, can really be surprising. It depends on the level of consciousness. If we're ready for healing, we'll bring healing. If we want to fight, we'll fight. It's really up to the American people, every single one of us. And we'll see where the core consciousness is. Are we ready for healing? Are we ready to heal this karmic divide in our country and create equality of opportunity, to truly bring healing and equality of opportunity? Or are we going to move more in the direction of inequality and discrimination and racism. So we will see where the consciousness of the United States of America is. We're going to learn this very, very soon. You know, I kept talking about I have talked about this chart quite a bit because I knew that this was going to probably be the most difficult of the 3 eclipses this summer. So I have been talking about it a lot, and I'll continue to talk about it because it is so unbelievably powerful. But now I want to jump forward to the inauguration day chart. And here you see Uranus, Mars exactly conjunct, and the moon moving into the mix as well. This is going to be so intense, and it's squaring the Sun, Saturn, and Jupiter. I think in some ways this is almost more intense than the chart that kicked off the American Civil War. But that doesn't mean it has to be violent. You have to understand that, because we're always coming around on the spiral of consciousness expansion. So what it means is we're not, although we come around on the exact place of that karma, and to some degree this is every 18 years, but then there are other larger patterns as well that bring us around, and we're in that same place in the pattern again, that is forcing us to face the karma of this nation that was built on slavery, bringing human beings from Africa over in ships to the United States to sell them, and to build the economy on the backs of the slaves, and to annihilate the people who were originally living here when the Europeans came over. That's the sad karmic truth about our country, and we have not healed that wound. We have not repaired that wound. We have not made things right yet. So that's why we're here once again, dealing with this karma once again. And as I said before, I am not going to make a prediction about who will win the election. And there's a number of reasons. I talked about, you know, my ethical feelings about it, that I don't think it's my place to say who will be the next president. But it's not just that. It's also that we all have to get out and vote. And I don't feel that it's right for me ethically to do anything that might somehow sway people's minds about, I need to go out and vote, or, oh, I don't need to go out and vote, everything's going to be fine. See, she already predicted it. You need to go out and vote. Okay, that every single one of us needs to go out and vote. And the other issue around this is that I think something may be disrupted with the elections anyway. And that might be what causes this eruption, which I do think we'll actually see on Inauguration Day. It's the karma of the inauguration, so that means that it will ripple forward. But the stone will be thrown into the pond on Inauguration Day, and then it will ripple outward throughout the entire 4-year term of whoever is inaugurated on that day, if anyone is. You know, I mean, the alignments, the full moon with the full moon conjunct Uranus exactly just 4 days prior to the election day. I know that the elections are going to be disrupted in some way. I just don't know exactly how. And it's impossible for any astrologer to predict how. We can make guesses about how it might be disrupted, but we'll all be wrong, because Uranus is the planet of unpredictability. So I'll go ahead really quickly and put this chart on top of the United States Declaration of Independence, so you can really quickly see that before I end this video. So now I did show you how, just because of what's happening, what's erupting right now, which is a glimpse of the revolution, the sun was conjunct Uranus. And at the time of the attack on Fort Sumter, the Uranus-Mars conjunction was conjunct the natal Uranus, okay? This time it's here in the 6th house of work and body. But Black Moon Lilith is there conjunct Uranus. And all of this is really, this is a powder keg. So it will manifest slightly differently because it's in a different sign and because it's activating in a different way. That's why I also think this will be much less violent. I don't think we're going to have another American Civil War. The way this revolution is activated will be much less violent. I think that we have evolved and we are going to find solutions. So, so this is actually something really positive, the way it's here in the 6th house of work and body, which includes not just the way that we work, but also the public health. And it's sextiling Jupiter and Venus up here in the 8th house, which, as I said, the 2nd and 8th house are the money houses, so they rule economics and stock market and government, finances, monetary system, all of that stuff. So this actually looks really favorable in terms of positive outcomes of this revolution. We'll still have to deal with Pluto because Pluto has not yet made its exact conjunction to the natal Pluto of the nation, which is called the Pluto return, which is all about transformation, the death of the old and the birth of the new. But transformation is always difficult and painful, and we're seeing it right now. So one last time, Uranus-Mars conjunction with the moon in there too, and Black Moon Lilith making a square to the nodes, an exact square to the nodes. You can see this 6 degrees 44 minutes, 6 degrees 36 minutes. That's virtually an exact square to the nodes, and also a square to Saturn. Same objective alignments as the attack on Fort Sumter that kicked off the American Civil War. But yes, we are at a higher level on the consciousness expansion spiral. And so we're coming around to that karma again, but we're at a higher, more expanded level of consciousness. So we'll be able to deal with this, I believe, in a much, much better way than what we saw back in 1861. All righty, so I'm going to stop now and bring this video to a close. So as always, I thank you for subscribing to my channel and clicking like on this video and leaving your comments. I hope that you will share this video, and also I hope that you will join my Financial Freedom channel. Go over there and subscribe. That's all you have to do, is just click on the link below and then subscribe, and that helps me to build that channel so I can provide all that information to people who are struggling and suffering right now, and just share all of that information that I have from my own education and my own experience, and share that for free with hopefully thousands of people, or who knows, maybe even more than that. That's what I want to do. That's what I want to give, because that's what I have to give. So, and of course, if you want to become a patron and receive your free gifts, or and also the exclusive content over there, then also click below. And of course, always, if you want or need a reading, you can click the link below. So thank you once again, dear friends and subscribers. I know this is a tough time for everybody, and we've got a lot of healing to do. So I will see you again in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.